I cannot stand when a person calls themselves having a good memory, but yet they only want to bring up the past when it comes to something negative. Oh, do you remember when you did this? Something that you had no business doing, something that you would have never done had you would have been, following Christ, something that was in your years prior to you becoming who you are today, right? But people will be quick to try to bring up your past because who you are now, oh no, that's not who you are. Remember when you did this? Remember when you said that? Remember when you used to hang out at that place? Remember on Friday nights when you would go do this, you would go do that? But now, look at you. Oh, do you remember this? Do you remember that? It's like, dag, I'm glad you got a good memory. But those people, they only got a good memory when it comes to your past. Because if you go to try to flip the script and say anything regarding their past, they don't remember. They have no recollection. They now have Alzheimer's. They now have senile. They don't know nothing. But they know everything when it comes to you. They remember what you did, the exact time, the exact day, probably what you was wearing, what you ate that day. And this happened 30 years ago. That's how good their memory is. You get what I'm saying? People want to hold you back because when they met you, that's what they thought that's all you're going to be. It's no way you're ever going to be anything better than the stage that they met you at. And even if you were at your worst, they never thought that you could have got out that situation. Oh, you're homeless. You're a drug addict. You dropped out of school. It's no way you're ever going to become anything. So fast forward in life, God does not call the qualified. I don't know how many times people need to hear this. It is not the people who were born with a silver spoon in their mouth that God is going to go after and change their life around. No, it's not. It's the people that other people counted out. The lost causes. The ones that people thought would never be anything. Those are the people that God raises up. And people are so shocked that they can't seem to understand how we serve a mighty God. And there's nothing that's too big or too small for him to do. It does not matter what your background is. It doesn't matter where you came from. If God wants you to be in a position in life, he's going to do whatever he has to do to make sure those doors are open for you. And your background is not going to matter. If he forgiving your background, who is someone else to sit here and hold you accountable to things that you've done in the past? You don't owe anybody anything. Yes, of course, if you've hurt somebody, you ask for forgiveness. And even if they don't forgive you, that's still not your problem. You take it to God. God is the only person who can sit here and put you in a heaven or a hell. There's not a person on this earth that can sit here and do that. And a lot of people, just in nature as a person, we can be judgmental. Not all the time in a negative way, but at first glance, you see something, you hear something, you got an opinion. Having an opinion is a form of judgment. Saying that to say we all are judging each other, but it's the people that are very obsessive. Like I said, they want to hold you to your past. You can't ever elevate. You can't be anybody else because of what you've done in the past. If we all were held to our past, wouldn't none of us be in the position we're in today? But people seem to forget that, and don't let your past be in some form of like the public eye, or where there's proof, where they can pull up videos or something. Oh, they're never going to want to let that go because this is you. You were doing this, so how can you be who you are today? And those people you pray for, and you just sit back and let them dig their own hole. Because the same grave they're digging for you is going to be the same grave that they have to fall in themselves. If somebody wants to hold you to your past, allow them. Of course, cut them off. But when I'm saying allow them, don't try to change their mind. You don't owe them anything. You don't go back and forth with people like that. When people have their mind made up about you, there's nothing that you can say or do that's going to change their mind. They already wanted to find a reason to dislike you. They already never liked you from the beginning, even if it comes down to your family. They didn't like you as a child. So you trying to explain yourself why you did the things you did and you were hurt and you were just trying to figure life out, whatever trauma you experienced, don't nobody care. There are some people out there that are literally looking for a reason to validate why they do not like you. So there's nothing that you're going to be able to say that's going to change this person's mind. There's nothing that you'll be able to say to give them insight as to why you did the things you did, what happened to you when you were a child, to maybe get them to understand your mindset and your thought process. Like, there's nothing that's going to happen. So like I said, those people you release, you give it to God, and you move on. You don't go back and forth. You don't have anything to prove to those people. Your validation comes from Jesus. You're not going to sit here and try to get other people's approval. Get them to validate you. Get them to understand who you are. God approved you. You don't need man to approve you. It doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So if you find yourself in this situation, don't go back and forth with anybody. Like I said, people got a real good memory when it comes to your past and the things that you have done. When it comes to anything that they have done, there's no recollection. They don't remember it. The events is kind of iffy. Oh, I remember bits and pieces. Yeah, I know. But when it comes to me, you remember everything down to the T. Of course, somebody who is literally sitting here storing negative information about you from years ago and just keep adding on to it, that doesn't sound like somebody who don't like you. That don't sound like a trick of an enemy. Like, who really is going to sit here and think about or remember every bad thing that you have done, every bad thing that you have said, every bad place that you have went, everything that could be looked at as negative when it came to you as an individual? Only people who are going to store that type of information is people who want to have evidence to paint you in a bad light. They need stories so that they can sit here and be able to translate that to other people and let other people know how bad of a person you are. That's why they do that. Yeah, stay prayed up and stay guarded, because people like that, they always going to have a good memory. But I would challenge you. If somebody says that to you, like, oh, do you remember? Ask them, like, oh, can you tell me anything current about that person? Whether they're talking about you or somebody else. Because people, they'll do that if they're even referring to somebody else. Oh, you remember when such and such used to be this, or such and such used... What about them now? Ask about current information. Like, what can you tell me about this person now? What have they been doing recently? Do they still hang out at the same place? Do they still do the same things? If you have no updated information and the only thing you keep talking about is remember back in the past, you have been stuck in the past, and you need to do some soul searching, because obviously life has continued to go on and you're still stuck back in whatever year you are, trying to literally go out your way to paint somebody in such a bad light when you have nothing to say about them currently. It's a problem.